He is the writer-director of Not to Be Unpleasant, but We Need to Have a Serious Talk. And is Giorgos Georgopoulos. And hopefully he can put him video on. There he is. Hi, George.
Hello.
Giorgos. I love your name. It's a nice alliteration. So I have a daughter,
Okay.
Stella Stephanopoulos. So I love how those two go together. So, well, welcome and thank you for taking the time to, talk to us. And we will have a lot to get into. I will have you tell us a little bit about your background. And I know this is I believe your second film. Yes. You've worked on shorts and I think documentaries as well, but I think in terms of feature, this is, you did both Tungsten and this film. And I had questions about the casting, but now that I know you, Tungsten was your movie, it all makes sense to me. But, I'm going to talk to you anyway about the cast because one of my favorite Greek actors is in this movie. But what can you tell us about your background? You're born in Greece and
yes, I was born in Greece, Athens, and my father was a director of photography in cinema, the old Greek cinema. So I was like born into shootings and things. So it was like a natural decision, let's say, for me to get into the movies. This is my second feature. Yes, my first one was Tungsten in 2011. Before that, I was doing mostly documentaries. And I also edit films. I mean, I've edited more than 10 films for other directors, friends, and things like that. I've studied cinema and sociology in Italy. And I'm trying to combine these two things into my work, I think.
So if you started off as an editor, is it fair to say you started off as an editor?
I still work as an editor because I really like it. So it's not something that when I started directing films, I quit. No, I still do that. I mean, even now I'm working on a TV series. I've done like 3 films in the last 2 years, editing for other directors. It is something I really enjoy, and to be honest, it really helps me. I mean, because when you are a director, you can do a film every like 4, 5, 6 years maybe.
Right.
But if you do other things too, you are always into films, and that's really helpful. I mean, to be always into films.
Now you edited Tungsten and Not to Be Unpleasant.
Yes.
You wore many hats. I mean, do you do that because of cost considerations, or you do it because you prefer to edit your own movies? Because I know some directors who do edit don't want to edit their own films.
Look, I would edit it anyway because I really want to try to know what I have in my mind, and I have the editing in my mind even when I write a film, not when I shoot. I mean, even before I start shooting. But to be honest, in future productions, I would like to try to have other, some cuts from other editors too. I mean, having my cut, and if we have the budget, to have another editor's cut too on my next film, for example. I'd love that.
So you said your father was in the film business, and that explains in part why you are in the film business. Do you have siblings, and if you do, are any of them actors or filmmakers?
I have a brother that we own together a production company in Athens. So that's it. But my mother is an artist too. She's painting. It's a painting of my mother.
That was her work.
A part of her work.
Right. If you showed the whole thing, we might have a copyright infringement claim. So let's talk about Not to Be Unpleasant. But we need to have a serious talk. I always struggle trying to get those words out of my mouth. It's a long title. I get the setup in the movie, why you went with the title. It is a good title. It just doesn't roll off the tongue easily for me. And it's actually, I think the film has been billed as a dark comedy, which it is. And I do think the whole setup of him now trying to circle back with these women and try to explain the situation, he's not sure how to have that conversation. And that's kind of, those are sort of funny sequences. but you've described the film as sort of a non-futuristic dystopia. Could you expand on that a little bit? And I mean, you've said too, it's the fictional virus, and the fact that this movie's coming out now with what's going on in COVID. I know, talked about that, but one really has nothing to do with the other, except that we sort of are living in what you're calling this non-futuristic dystopia. Yeah. So, but it's a character-driven film, and maybe you can talk about Omeros's role and why you cast him. I know you worked with him in Tungsten, and sort of set up the what's really going on in terms of these two competing values.
Yes, when I say it's a non-futuristic dystopia, I mean, obviously this film talks about, a small maybe part of our world, but fortunately not all of our world is like that, because we describe a world with a lack of expression of feelings, with really competitive people, a really tough world. It's like a corporate world. When you make a film, you cannot talk about everything. So, I mean, that's the universe of our film. And this, in my mind, it is dystopic. I mean, I wouldn't want to live in a world like that, for sure. So it is for me dystopic. And of course, it's even more dystopic when you have a virus outbreak. I mean, in cinema and in pop culture, virus outbreaks is something really popular, let's say, something you see in films so many years. But I guess that it's not just now the situation that makes us see these films in a different way. Having a real virus, I mean, around you makes you not feeling this kind of thing like a part of pop culture, like reality. I don't know.
But what made you pick that it was a sexually transmitted disease? What was the pretext for that? Because I guess it could have been any virus. Was it that you really wanted to show him as a kind of a career, ultimate careerist, and he was going to not stop at anything to succeed in business? But then you wanted it to contrast that against how do you deal with sort of personal relationships, and I guess nothing gets more personal than really having to have that kind of conversation if you're a carrier of a sexually transmitted disease that you don't know where you got that, and people are dying from it, because you do see people just sort of dropping dead down the spot.
Well, look, actually, what I want to do is like make a film about this feeling of distraction after the end of a relationship. I mean, that this situation that everything changes. I mean, it's like you used to be with somebody like for 1 year, 2 years, and then this thing ends, and both people become different people. They become enemies. They become something. So it's mostly the feeling I wanted to describe. Okay, the idea came, in parts. It's not only one idea. I started interviewing people, women mostly. I knew I wanted to have a negative character as a main character. I mean, he's not that nice as a person, the Omeros character, but it's mostly this feeling I wanted to describe. I mean, the aftermath, let's say, of a relationship, and everything else comes later.
So you call your main character sort of an anti-hero, and that's something you said you wanted to do, and you've also said he's a very despicable person. And again, I was wondering what you think makes him so despicable. Is it that he is a womanizer? Is that he was too aggressive in business, or that he actually, one of his love interests is his boss's young daughter, which that by itself could be something that makes him not a good guy. But I guess it's a combination of all of that. But you said it's not somebody that you would want to hang out with. I mean, is he really that unlike that many people we know?
For sure, I wouldn't hang out with him. That's for sure. But it's what you said. It's a little bit of everything about him. Mostly, he's generally the compass of his life is like so in the wrong direction, I guess. I wanted to show the film, but it wasn't always like that. I mean, there was probably a turning point for him, for his compass to break. But I think it's a guy that he did everything wrong. I mean, from a certain point, he did everything wrong. And I also think that he doesn't do exactly the right thing, even now that he knows. I mean, when he goes back to his ex-girlfriends, okay, he's trying to do one good thing, but even there, it's a situation that he cannot handle anyway. I mean, even at the last moment, he cannot really express something he feels. I mean, I think he's an empty person, to be honest. That's why I don't kind of like it. This is, of course, these are things that I'm saying after I completed the film, because when we were making the film, we were not talking about this guy like that, okay? We were treating to him like a normal person, like trying to analyze him, trying to think why and all of these things. But now that I have a distance from the project, I hate this guy.
Well, so Omiros Poulakis is someone you worked with before in Tungsten.
Yes.
And then you cast him as the lead in this film. And then opposite him is Vangelis Mouraikis, who I love. This guy is just so great in almost in everything he does. I mean, he's been in Stratos and Knifer. I first saw him in Knifer, then Chevalier, and Attenborough, Tungsten. So was it that you went to Vangelis for this part because of the two of them having worked together, not just with you, but with your lead actor? Was that part of the decision, or?
I wrote this part for Vangelis. So when I was writing this, I had in my mind Vangelis reading poems with an electrolarynx. I mean, it would, I don't know what would I have done, I mean, if he would accept the part. It was made for him from the beginning. The other parts were like open. I mean, I didn't have actors in my mind when I was writing. Of course, I like working with people I know.
I noticed that you cast Yannis Ikoumidis. I mean, I don't know if you cast him. I mean, maybe he just wanted to do this, and it's a small part. It's a funny. I didn't realize that that's who he was. That he's a well-known Greek filmmaker himself, and he did Knifer and Stratos, and then he's also an actor, and so he's in this funny little scene. So obviously, you guys must be good friends. And
yes, we're good friends. And I really like his work. I really respect him as a director, and I like what he does also as an actor. So I really wanted him to be there, and I know he enjoys acting. So I really wanted him to have. And the guy that plays in the same scene with him is Adonis, another good friend of me and of Yannis. So it was like a thing of us. I mean, this scene was like something in between friends. They really wanted to do that.
So I got a question last night by email from one of our attendees who was found very interesting the fact that you made one of your main characters, portray one of your main characters as having a laryngectomy, and why you did that, and the Vangelis' character with the laryngectomy. So why you did that? Obviously, it was sort of without explanation in terms of why he had this disability or handicap. Obviously, he's portrayed as a successful businessman, and apparently her father for 47 years had lost his voice and spoke with one of those machines, and she really was moved by the fact that you had a character in a film doing this. Now, it played to humorous effect, not because of the situation, because I think of Vangelis as a character actor, and the fact that you made him someone who saw himself as an aspiring poet, and his poems being as ridiculous as they were. So I think that, every time he talked, every time he had him listen to his poems, I just was hysterical. So was that part of the setup, or how you chose to do that, or was there other reasons behind?
There's a pattern in the film that we see technological things always intermediating communication. I mean, you see people talking through monitors. You see somebody trying to write and say poems through electrolarynx. You see the daughter of the poet trying to speak, not to speak to Omeros using her mobile phone. So it is a pattern that I used exactly for this intermediated communication that we have today. I mean, it's a part of this world I was describing before, this non-futuristic dystopia. And I think that technology in our communication can be, a real problem sometimes. I mean, because everything seems easier, but never go deeper, let's say. No. That's why I chose him to have this electrolarynx. And also I find a bit moving, him being, a successful businessman. And after this adventure he had with his health, with cancer, obviously, trying to find something more tender, even if he's not talented as a poet, because of course he's not talented. But I find it, moving that he's trying at least to do something more artistic, because everybody can imagine that he is a man. I mean, he's a businessman. I mean, it has nothing to do with art. So I really thought it was moving. And of course, the delivery of this character from Vangelis is like, for me, it's astonishing. I'm so proud when I see Vangelis doing this part. It's just proud.
I mean, it really just adds to the dimension of the character. Is just not another talking head, actor in the film, right? He really has this personality, both just in terms of who he is and the position he has, but then just the fact that you hear him differently. And at times, at first, it was hard to get used to, because then you're like, oh, you're gonna have to listen to this. I wasn't sure if you were concerned that might take people out of the movie, but for me, the poetry made that, like, I wanted to hear more from Vangelis in the film, because I found those were just really good scenes, and it wasn't meant to be funny, but because Omeros' character couldn't really say anything except that he liked what he thought he was really good, but it did have an effect on the viewer, I thought.
I hope so. I don't know. I hope so. It's not and this character. I mean, it reminds me of many things. I mean, I told you he's a guy that he's trying to do art in a way, in a world that art is not part of it. And this is like a bit like us. I mean, in cinema, because we're also trying to do art. I mean, in a world that is not made for art. So I mean, I really feel this guy. No. I hope I'm more talented than him. I hope, but I really feel this guy.
So obviously, you show, again, I don't want to give away too much of the movie, but you show this person having to have a series of conversations. So there's obviously multiple women. You would think that there might be even more people that he'd have to talk to, but it is, it's just so many characters. And one of whom is Japanese. So was that because Omeros speaks Japanese, or was the symbolism of the bonsai tree all part of that, or what can? And again, there's a lot there, and we don't want to explain too much about the bonsai tree, but it's not all of his lovers were Greek women.
Omeros doesn't speak Japanese. He learned Japanese for the scene, of course. I can imagine that. But I wanted, I mean, I see this, all of this film like, it's a linear story, a completely linear story, but it's a linear that works in two different directions. I mean, this guy, in order to move on, to find what's happening in his life, he has to go back to his past with his lovers. So it's like completing a puzzle, the puzzle of his personality. When we go back to the Japanese girl, in my mind at least, we find the relationship with a woman that he actually loved, but he didn't follow Japan as they had planned. So what I was talking about before, the turning point, the certain point that his compass broke, is exactly when he didn't follow this girl back to Japan. She's Japanese because now she looks like a completely, let's say, stranger to him, something exotic, something that you don't recognize anything of yours on this girl now. And that's how he sees a relationship that was really serious for him, but how he sees it now. Of course, there are things that left in him from this thing, the bonsai thing. He really takes care of it. Maybe the only thing in his life that he's taking care of, this bonsai thing. And but probably it's not now. No. Let's say it's not something that can change about that. I mean, it's too late. Let's say even if he takes care of this little tree, it's too late for him, I think.
Right. So no, it's a wonderful film, and you know, where else will this play in the United States? Where does it go from here?
I don't know yet, because this situation now with all the festivals and stuff, it's really, we don't know what's happening. Cinemas are open, closed, festivals are not happening. We did it started, the film started its screenings from the States. I mean, it had its world premiere in Austin.
Austin, right. I saw
that. In the Austin Film Festival in October. We had arranged some other festivals in between, also in the States, but they didn't do it. I mean, they didn't happen because of the pandemic, obviously. So we don't really know yet. We'll see. Just see. It's not a good period for planning. I mean, no.
Were you able to go to Austin for the screening?
Yes, I went there. It was yes, and I really liked it.
So how was it received by? I assume it was mostly American audience.
Yes, American audience.
Again, there's really nothing that's singular that makes it a Greek film. I mean, I guess just that it's film being a director's medium and you being Greek makes it a Greek film. But if the movie were in the English language with different cast, I mean, you could tell the same story very easily anywhere.
Yes, and that's what I felt there too. I mean, I saw that the film works in a foreign audience. I saw that the comedy part, the humor works for them. And that was, I mean, a relief, because you never know, especially with the humoristic part, what's happening in different languages. It was some screenings that made me really, really happy. And we had some great Q&As after that. I mean, they saw great interest about the film. So it was I was really happy about that.
We're coming to the end here, but I just want to ask a couple more questions. Has there been a question that's been asked of you about the film that was totally unexpected by anyone that you've shown the film?
Totally unexpected. Yeah, but that's difficult to happen because when I finish a film, I make screenings. I'm provoking people to ask me things, so this would not happen to me. Something unexpected in a screening. No, what sometimes impresses me is that some people get completely different things from the same scene. I mean, it was a bit impressive that I saw some women in screenings like Omiros' character. That was a bit impressive. And that they were ready to forgive him and to feel his problems and things. That was a bit impressive. Yeah.
Right. So what next for you? What else are you working on that you can talk about?
I have a film on development. I mean, the script is ready, and now it's like asking for money here and there. It's a sport team movie. It's like a kind of Karate Kid meets Rocky in a queer universe, something like that. I am also writing in another film, another dark comedy, and we see what comes first? I don't know. I'm not sure. I guess the sport and movie will come first because it's already in development. We'll see. Yeah, I'm really optimistic about the script. It was part of a workshop, Sundance Film Festival workshop. So I worked with some of the best filmmakers, American filmmakers, as advisors, and I'm really optimistic about this script. We'll see.
That's great.
Vangelis Mourikis will be in it again, for sure.
Yeah.
It will be a sensei.
Yeah, he's terrific. Congratulations. I think you will have a lot of success with this movie. We're very glad that we were able to show it during the festival. And obviously, people haven't yet seen it. They have 2 more days to go online to watch the film. And we thank you, Giorgos, for spending some time with us today to answer some questions. And we look forward to hosting you at some point in New York.
Thank you very much for your time, for the interview. And I hope we will meet again in the cinema next time. Because we should watch films in cinemas. That's
right, much better. Yeah. And we hope that we will be able to get back to that sooner than later. So, Thank you again, and it was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you, my pleasure. Thank you.